Welcome to Theological Grazing.
I've been trying to read more Wendell Berry lately, and I'm, probably by the time this comes out, I hope, because I think this is probably weeks away from when I'm recording it, I hope I'm already done with The Unsettling of America by Wendell Berry. And it's very good, especially somebody who's interested and active in agriculture. I find it to be extremely profound. But one of the things I love about Wendell Berry is he gets to the heart of issues in a way that very few do. And what's interesting is that there are, conservative types like me. I consider myself very much a kind of paleo conservative, old school conservative, that I read Wendell Berry and I think, man, this is exactly right. And at the same time, they're pretty extreme progressive type people that like Wendell Berry. And a lot of times it has to do with environmentalism in some capacity. It's kind of one of these points that actually I think it's easier to find some common ground is through Berry. But one of the things I love, again, about Wendell Berry is he gets right to the heart of things. And I would highly recommend his writing, for anyone. I don't obviously agree with everything, but I'm really, I think he is one of the most influential writers on my thought. If you want to understand how my brain works, one of the ways to do that would be by reading some more Wendell Berry. But in The Unsettling of America, he has a great chapter where he deals with the problem in agriculture as what he calls a character problem. And I think I just want to, take what he talks about and just apply it more broadly. That when we look at cultural problems, whether that be in agriculture or whether that be in, other areas in the culture as far as, sexual morality, or the culture as far as art, or, various other kinds of, political aspects of life, or financially. That's a big one too. When we look at the culture as a whole, we see these massive problems, the unbelievable debt that we're in, the industrialized mindset that has just stripped so much of our productive land, of those things which make it productive. The complete rebellion against the traditional norms of Scripture when it comes to sexuality, and the just absolute chaos that's created for children and for men and women, the suffering and the disease and the mental health issues, all of it. When we think about these things, we often jump to the big solution that will fix it all. Where, if we just do this one thing, if we just make this policy, if we vote for this politician, if we implement this one new plan, then everything is fixed. But cultural problems should be understood and seen primarily as character problems. In that, there is not going to be one giant big solution. And actually, the idea that there needs to be that before anything changes is part of the problem itself. Actually, these cultural problems are character problems in that each one of us has to change. We have to change how we live. We have to change how we eat, how we shop. We have to change how we enter into relationships, and who and when we engage in sex, and to blame, or rather to put responsibility for change upon the whole, as if, with one big policy, with one big change, everything's going to get better, is to miss the point that all of this comes because individual people, each one of us, makes choices that ultimately lead up to large societal problems. And it is incumbent upon each one of us to take responsibility for our sin. And in doing so, we are, in part, taking responsibility for the way that we influence the wider culture around us. We do have a responsibility to the culture, but the means of change is, generally speaking, you changing. It's not waiting until, you have the word from on high in Washington, D.C. that you can live a different kind of life. You don't have to wait for that. You can change right now, whether or not anybody else does. But in you changing, actually, this is the beginning of a course correct. You changing and following after Christ when it comes to how you live your life, that is going to have massive effects, actually, in the long run, as far as making cultural change. So culture issues should not be seen as culture issues alone, but rather they should be understood, I think, as character issues.
Well, that's all, folks. If you could help me out, rate and review this podcast, share it with a friend, go ahead and email me if you have any questions. We're out.